that is best at his craft when it comes to writing for college basketball, and that's my good buddy in Dick Hoops Weiss. Dick, it's Zach Gelb here, WHIP Radio in Philadelphia. How are you?
Good, Zach. How you doing, pal?
I'm doing great, and it's great to talk to you once again. We last saw each other as Teddy Bridgewater came into Lincoln Financial Field and had some success going up against the Temple Owls. And I know you're very big into the Heisman race. Who would you name the top dog right now in the Heisman Trophy race?
I would think that right now it's going to come down to Jameis Winston, probably Marcus Mariota, and Johnny Manziel. I would think Bridgewater might be the first pick in the NFL draft. I just think that people have a problem with the AAC. They haven't come to grips with the fact that it's a pretty entertaining, high-scoring league with a lot of very good quarterbacks. I mean, and Temple has one of them. The kid B.J. Walker is going to be very special for them.
And P.J. Walker, he's been a quarterback that he could throw the ball 50 yards downfield. He's had a nice relationship with Robbie Anderson, but he could also extend his plays with his legs. It really looks like he has a promising future, Hoops.
I think he was a steal, and they got him out of Elizabeth, New Jersey. He was a North Jersey Player of the Year. You know what? And he stuck with a school that got involved with him first. I mean, he didn't, and that's to his credit. I think he wanted to go someplace where he could play immediately, and now he's getting his chance. And Temple is becoming much more competitive since he took over the position. I mean, they were right there on the road with SMU. They probably should have won the Rutgers game last week. I think that for a team that's really starting over and lacks a lot of experience in the secondary, they're becoming a fun team to watch offensively.
You covered college basketball and college football for many years, and this is a Temple program that they're trying to build it up. Football Saturdays in Philly, they're trying to make it a big-time program. Some people are saying they may want a stadium on campus, and Kevin Clark is looking at those options. But this is a football team the last 2 weeks, just like you mentioned. They're going into halftime with leads. They were up 21 against SMU and 10 up against Rutgers. It just comes down to experience why they can't go out there and finish off these games in the second half.
Well, particularly defensively. I mean, they're missing a lot of big bodies. They're missing a lot of important bodies, particularly when they play against the passing game. I mean, you saw Gilbert's numbers against them, and that, he puts up big numbers against a lot of people, but that was obscene.
Dick Hoops Weiss joins us on the hotline, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. And Hoops, let's get to this basketball team as they open up the season tomorrow at Penn at the Palestra. And this was a team a year ago. They're going to lose 5 seniors. They got to the NCAA tournament. They got into a lot of high-scoring games under the brilliance of Khalif Wyatt, where they would put up 70, 80 points. And this year, I think scoring is going to be a problem for this team. And if they do win games, they're going to be in that 50-point total mark.
Well, they've lost the top 4 leading scorers. Is that right?
Yes.
I know they've lost 73% of their scoring, and they have more questions than answers because I think Fran is going to be forced to play a lot of young kids. I could see him depending highly on 2 sophomores, DeCozy and Dana Dingle, for scoring, and I could see him being forced to play Mark Williams at one of the other power positions. I mean, they've got Anthony Lee. He had good numbers last year. He was their leading rebounder. He averaged just under 10 points. I think that he has a chance to have a breakout season. They're going to need a lot more from Will Cummings, but they brought in Josh Brown to at least offer some help at that position. A lot may depend on how well guys that didn't contribute last year will do. I'll be intrigued to see whether Dalton Pepper can contribute given his high school resume at Pennsbury. I'll be very interested to see how DeCozy does because I thought he was a great player, seeing Jez McCutcheon, who just got caught in a numbers game last year when Temple was basically relying on seniors.
This is a new conference, and it's a tough schedule. Dunphy, I was in his office the other day, and he said it's the toughest schedule he's ever had to face here at Temple University. And you have a young group. You only have one senior that's going to see minutes in Dalton Pepper. And guys like Anthony Lee and Will Cummings, who weren't your feature players last year, are now being put in that feature role. Could you see this team possibly struggling coming out of the gate to start off this season?
I think they probably will struggle. I mean, look, Fran is a good coach, but this league is a lot more difficult than the A10 in terms of winning on the road. I mean, it's not just having the defending national champion Louisville, but you also have to deal with teams like Connecticut and Memphis, who could be second weekend teams. Cincinnati, who could be an NCAA team, even though they've had to replace some people. And SMU, who I think is going to make a quantum leap this year. I don't know how many teams this league is getting in the NCAA tournament. You might have to finish in the top 4 to get in. I don't know that Temple at this point is capable of doing it. I think that they will get more competitive as the season goes on, as Franny gets experience for his personnel.
And then you also have Texas and the classic Big Five matchup between Villanova. So the schedule, it is a tough one. And I think Temple's going to struggle a little bit down low. The expectations are NIT this year from when you talk to people in this town. But you're going to see possibly some minutes from Daniel Dingle at the 4 spot. You mentioned Mark Williams as well. Those are 2 young guys, and they go up against 2 big men on Saturday. And Darian Nelson-Henry, who had an exceptional game last year when Penn came into the Liacouras Center. And you can't sleep on Dave Winfield Jr. as well, who's 6'10".
No, I mean, I think this will be a good test for them just to see how they rebound against size. I mean, the game is, it'll be interesting to see how many Temple people show up at the game. I'm always intrigued by that. You're usually a February crowd. It'd be fun to see them show up in droves for first Big Five game of the season.
When you look at a player like Anthony Lee, he's now the leader of this team. He's going to be one of the marquee players. He's going to have a big year. And last year, we saw some stretches of brilliance, and then we also saw some inconsistencies. That Syracuse game is one game that really stands out to me, as he was one of the best players on the court that day. And he's also been working on his jump shot. He has that mid-range jumper that he's developing. I would imagine a lot of the scoring this year could come off his hands this year.
Well, if anybody is going to have a breakout year, it's probably going to be Lee. I mean, I was at the Garden for the Syracuse game last year, and in the second half, he was sensational. I mean, there was little question in my mind that game, at least for that game alone, Temple was the better team. I mean, Syracuse had no ability to deal with Wyatt, no ability to deal with Lee down the stretch. I mean, that may have been Temple's best game of the season. It certainly gave them the impetus to play well throughout the course of the year. I mean, I like their win over LaSalle, but LaSalle wasn't a complete team. I would think the Syracuse win last year was probably as good as it gets.
Dick Hoops Weiss joins us on the hotline, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. And Hoops, you talked about a few moments ago about Josh Brown. He comes over from St. Anthony's from the Hurley program. He had a plethora of success at that institution, and now he's here at Temple. And this is going to be a player where in the past you usually don't see a Fran Dunphy freshman get in there. And Dunphy said it to me the other day that he's going to get some significant minutes. And can you see him on the court, though, a lot with Will Cummings, or do you think he's just going to back up Will in this season?
No, I think they need more scoring. I think DeCozy's going to have to play a lot of minutes. I think he could split the role with Cummings. I mean, listen, Bob Hurley's guards always know how to play. His teams run a clinic whenever they play. They were the best defensive team on the East Coast last year at the high school level. I mean, they held one team to 15 points, Northeast side. And I think they held Bishop Eustace to 31 in the game they played against them. So, I mean, Franny is like most coaches believe, defense comes first. I mean, and this kid is already pretty accomplished in that area.
Quinton DeCozy, you want to see him be a little bit more aggressive. He didn't get a whole lot of minutes last year, but from the slight sample space that we saw out of him in that Duke game, he put up about 15 points. What are the biggest struggles when you take a freshman and now he's a sophomore and he didn't get a whole lot of experience in year 1 and now he's thrown into the fire at year 2?
Franny usually doesn't play the freshman as much as he might play other people. He'd rather have them get a feel for the situation before he puts them in the game. But you're going to see an awful lot of young players on the floor at Temple. Frankly, I think it's going to be a work in progress judging from the Drexel scrimmage. But he does have some personnel. I mean, a lot is going to depend on how those freshmen and sophomores bloom and how quickly they get on track. If Temple's going to have success, not just in the December games, but once the league starts.
Final one here right before we let Dick Hoops Weiss go, who's the best college basketball writer in the nation, and just more importantly, a great guy as he joins us on the hotline right now. Main event, Zach Gelb flying solo here with you. Dalton Pepper, he didn't look too comfortable last year. He wasn't put in a big role, but when he got some minutes early on in the year, he was very inconsistent, and then later on in the year, he started to heat up from the corner three. Do you believe he'll be more comfortable here in his final season at Temple as he enters year number 2?
I hope for his sake he is. I hope he doesn't follow. His dad kind of followed the same track record where he was a great player in high school. Never really did anything afterwards. Dalton was good enough to be recruited by multiple Big East schools. I don't know that he's athletic enough to really make a huge contribution. A lot is going to depend on whether he can get space and shoot the ball. I mean, that's what he did exceptionally well when he was a 9th and 10th grader and even 11th grader. I mean, the guy scored a lot of points, so you have to hope you can get something out of it. Even if it's coming off the bench, that he can give you some sort of offensive spark if he gets shots. It's going to be a year where a lot of guys are going to get a chance to do things. It's not a year where we know what's going to happen at multiple positions. I mean, aside from Lee, I think you've got 4 positions that are going to be ever-changing in the roles of the players on the floor play.
Hoops, it'll be a fun one to watch this year. I appreciate a few minutes today. I'm sure we'll see you at a bunch of the games this year, and let's get you on again real soon. I appreciate it, my friend.
No problem, pal. Good talking to you.
Great talking to you, too. Dick Hoops Weiss right there, the best college basketball writer in the nation. We'll take a quick break here on Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. And when we get back, we turn the page from basketball to football. NFL picks coming up next here on Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP.
Like what you hear? Stay up to date by